Hey, welcome back to World Entertainment. And you've probably seen this already, but I was waiting to see if there would be more added to it. And sure enough, more has been added to it. We are, of course, talking about the criticism that a Hollywood producer sent in the direction of none other than Sydney Sweeney. And Sydney Sweeney has taken a big tongue-in-cheek shot back at that producer. Now, this is funny what started happening with this, because it's just mind-blowingly crazy to hear this. And then you see the person who's saying it, and you're like, are you serious? So let's have a look at this. So, we recently shared that veteran film producer, this is an article by the way on comicbook.com. So we recently shared film producer Carol Baum comments about Madam Web star Sydney Sweeney made during a recent event in New York. The producer, who counts the likes of Dead Ringers and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that's the original movie that is, not the show, among her many credits, talked about watching Anyone But You on a plane and described it as unwatchable. However, Baum's personal comments about Sydney have seen her come under fire after she exclaimed, "Explain this girl to me. She's not pretty. She can't act. Why is she so hot?" Sydney Sweeney's team later issued a scathing response that read, "How sad that a woman in the position to share her expertise and experience chooses instead to attack another woman. If that's what she's learned in her decades in the industry and feels it appropriate to teach to her students, that's shameful. To unjustly disparage a fellow female producer speaks volumes about Miss Baum's character." Now, it should be noted, the reason they say she said it, she's teaching it to her students, apparently she made this comment to her class of students. Yeah. So she turned around and said to the students, like, why this girl's not pretty and whatnot. So Sweeney has proven she can act with stellar turns in Euphoria and Immaculate, while she's also making her mark in Hollywood as a producer. Now, in an Instagram post sharing several photos from a recent vacation in Mexico, the actress has seemingly taken a shot at Bombs with a tongue-in-cheek photo. And the photo is her in a jumper, or a sweatshirt as you like to call them in the States, that has written on it, "Sorry for having great tits." Which is hilarious that she did that. And it should also be noted that this producer has since come out and said she regrets making the statements. Can't imagine why. Maybe it's because she's 81 and looks like she looks, and she's taking pop shots at this young, beautiful woman. It's so funny. Like, when she's saying, like, I don't get it, she's not pretty. Yeah, well, I'll give it to Carol Baum. She's not pretty. She's absolutely right. She's not pretty. She's absolutely gorgeous. There's a difference. But that post that she put out, and it was directed towards Hollywood producers, i.e. Carol Baum, a person who's clearly just jealous and bitter, probably isn't getting much work anymore, and sees a 26-year-old young woman who, yes, has great tits, as the jumper says, coming out and making her own way in there. She's acting, she's getting all these roles, people are taking to her, they're gravitating towards her, and she's now starting to produce her own things as well, starting her own producing company. Yeah, it just sounds like pure jealousy and just bitterness. And like, to try and turn around and say she's not good looking, like, come on. As for her saying, you know, she can't act. Now, this article says she's put out stellar performances. Okay, I'll take your word for it. The only thing I've ever seen her in is Madam Web, and she was fine in it, She wasn't fantastic. But then again, no one was, You can only work with what you were given, and boy, were they given some garbage. But, and they are right. It is funny to see a producer turning around and calling her out in that way, and to a class of students who were trying to get into the film industry. How many of them may have already been sitting there feeling self-conscious about their looks and stuff, and they may be looking at the likes of Sydney Sweeney and even Dakota Johnson and others and saying, wow, if only I was half as good looking as them or something. And then to have their teacher, their mentor, this Hollywood producer who's produced films like Father of the Bride. She was the producer on that and the original Buffy movie and all these things. To hear her turn around and say Sydney Sweeney's not pretty and can't act, and why do people like her? Your self-consciousness will be destroyed. You'd be like, oh my god, I thought they were great looking and thought I was bad, and she's saying this. What chances have I got then in the industry? It's such a weird thing. And then the fact that, of course, she turned around and went, I wish I actually didn't say that. Kind of wish I could take it back. No, you're only sorry because you got so much backlash and people called you out for how stupid of a comment it was and is. That's what you're sorry for. But it's just a hilarious story to see this old, bitter woman take a shot at a 26-year-old gorgeous girl with massive assets who, in pure hilarity, put out that post of her wearing that jumper. And that's an old picture as well. You can clearly see that's an old picture. I'm assuming, anyway, it looks like it's an old picture. But yeah, Sydney Sweeney doing that just makes people like her even more. When she took the shot at Madam Web on Saturday Night Live, and now she takes the shot at this old fart in this manner, yeah, it's just going to make more people like her. But there's the story. I'm glad I waited because we got this little update courtesy of Sydney herself, which is great. So with that, I'll leave it there for this one. So cheers. I'll catch you in the next one.